would like to introduce our first candidate this evening, Ms. Toni Kornegay Vaughn, who is running for Alabama's House of Representatives in District 45. She is a seventh-generation Alabamian. She is the daughter and granddaughter of educators, the daughter and wife of veterans, and the mother of a registered nurse. After earning a bachelor's degree in finance from the University of Alabama, Toni rose to the position of Senior Vice President for Nationwide Insurance, with responsibilities for 40 branch offices across 7 different southeastern states. She's been a trailblazer for women in her field and a lifelong activist for human rights. Her campaign is focused on a 3-point platform: public education, affordable and accessible healthcare, and affordability for working families with an emphasis on childcare. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome candidate Toni up here to the podium.
Thank you, Ariana. Can you hear me? I talk pretty loud. Yes, I am a 7th-generation Alabamian who married a man from Kentucky who's lived in Alabama now longer than he ever lived anywhere. I was born in a 3-room clinic in Coffeyville, Alabama, in Clark County. And today, if I had been born, both my mother and I would probably have died, because people in Coffeyville, Alabama are 100 miles from maternal and child care. I spent the first 9 years of my life in Coffeyville. My father's first job was a football coach / chemistry teacher, and he never had chemistry, but he learned it to teach it. And that was after he finished the University of Alabama after being in the submarine service in World War II. In 1964, we moved back to Centerville, Alabama, in Bibb County, which is where my roots in Alabama lay. 7 generations deep on all sides, but 1 and 8 generations deep on that one. I grew up in a small town, or in small towns, one very small town. When I moved to Centerville, I thought that I had moved to the city. Now, I live in a gated neighborhood, as does my opponent. That doesn't change the person that I am. It just happened to be the 1-level house that we wanted. But that doesn't change who I am and how I grew up. I watched my mother struggle with recipes that would feed her family healthy meals without breaking the bank. Because educators, and by then my father was a principal and then a superintendent, did not make a lot of money then. I worked my way through the University of Alabama and had scholarships and had small student loans. If you hear that I'm a high school dropout, which might be used against me, I will tell you that's true, to my mother's chagrin. After completion of my junior year in high school, I was part of a test program that took high school juniors and admitted them to the University of Alabama. So I was kind of forced to graduate, or I'm a high school dropout. And funny thing is, I wanted to take some classes at Jeff State, and they told me I had to take the GED to do it. So go figure. I spent my career in the insurance claims industry for companies that handle claims and did risk management for multiple companies. I loved my job until I didn't. We kind of had to get to a point where both of us were traveling and something had to give. Literally before 9/11, I would come in on one plane and my husband would bring the baby to the gate, hand her to me, and off he'd go on the same plane that I came in on. That finally had to give, and I was ready for it to give. I care about people. I've always cared about people. One thing, when you've lived a long time, you've seen a lot of things. And I grew up in the 50s, 60s, and early 70s. And I saw things I do not want to see again. I saw children hosed in a park in Birmingham. I saw people attacked and killed on Selma Bridge. I saw John F. Kennedy Jr. be shot, not on TV, but I saw his assassin be shot on TV. I saw Martin Luther King's assassination. I saw Bobby Kennedy's assassination. We lost great people, and I don't want to see that again. I was happily retired, very happily retired. But my opponent in District 45 is not representing the needs of the people of District 45. And I tried to get someone young to run, but nobody would do it. And all I got was, what about you, Toni? So the verse came to my mind, here am I, Lord, send me. So here I am. My platform is simple. My platform is to help the people of District 45 and the state of Alabama. Education, public education. Repeal the Choose Act. We do not need hundreds of millions of dollars going anywhere that are designated for education, anywhere but public school. And you're going to have to work really hard to convince me that it should not be repealed in its entirety. Affordable, accessible health care. Now, accessible health care isn't a problem in our area, or at least in my district, but affordability is. My daughter is a registered nurse. She tells me about counseling patients who are time and time again back in the hospital because they do not go to the doctor and they do not take their medication. Why? Because they cannot afford it. Health care is a right, not a privilege. How many of you struggle with the cost of gas, the cost of groceries, the cost of everything? How many of you struggle or know someone that struggles with the cost of childcare? That's something no one has talked about until I started talking about it. In my neck of the woods, childcare is a mortgage payment. And if New Mexico, the poorest state in the union, can do something to help with childcare, then the state of Alabama can if they will stop wasting money on lawsuits that are going to be overturned, on laws that are going to be ruled unconstitutional. Stop wasting money and help the people. There are many things I'm for and many things I'm against. And I can't be all things to all people or know everything. There are other issues that will come up that I will support and I won't support. But these three are what I'm trying my best to learn everything that I can about them and what we can do. People, this election is winnable. All of our elections are winnable. How many of you voted in the last election? The one before that? And the one before that? Okay, that's fantastic. Give yourself a pat on the back. That is not happening. In my district, in Leeds and Irondale, part of my district, and by the way, I have part of North Shelby County, Greystone, Highland Lakes, down 41, down 43, into part of Chelsea, all of Leeds, including St. Clair County portion of Leeds, and part of Irondale. 28% of those deemed to be Democrats voted in Leeds and Irondale in the 2022 election. It was better in the primary. In fact, in Shelby County, Alabama, the pickup for Democratic ballots was 267% more than it was in 2022. Republicans were down 27%. So there were less Republicans who voted in the main primary than Democrats. Now, I don't mean less, percentage-wise. They still have more, but we more than doubled our participation. You gotta go to the polls and vote. You vote, you get 10 people to vote, and you get those 10 people to tell 10 other people to vote, and so forth. Not being registered is not acceptable. People, we've got problems, and they're not getting handled, and they won't get handled unless we have a change. If Doug Jones wins, he can't do anything with the Republican supermajority. He needs those of us who are running for the state house and the Senate, or he's just a lame duck governor. I'm Toni Kornegay Vaughn, and I ask you to please go out November 3rd and vote Toni Kornegay Vaughn, House District 45. It's time for Toni.